And you will know my name is the Lord.
I am God.
Damn you all.
I know what I'm doing. I promise. I've had practice. I've been doing this for 3 years. And absolutely no time in this afternoon did I attempt to fuck around with the virtual green screen options and forget that I was wearing a green shirt. You did not, in any sense of the term, miss anything stupid that may or may not have happened while you were waiting for the stream to tardily start. Welcome one, welcome all to the one, the only Junk Shop Library channel. I am Junk Shop. I will be your host for the next hour or so of your terrible, sinful, misspent little lives. Welcome to the channel where a manic, depressive, non-binary atheist reads the King James Bible verse by verse and then blow by blow proceeds to rip at the new asshole it so profoundly deserves and has for 2,000 years. If that sounds appealing to you, by all means, stick around. If it doesn't, fuck off. And fuck you. Also, under no circumstances whatsoever is the stream for children, because, as I may have mentioned before, we read the King James Bible, the big book of war crimes and outdated regulations, utter madness and abuse. A book which was outdated 1,500 years ago and has not, shall we say, aged well. Good to see everyone. This show, and the others like it and unlike it, and more and less regularly appearing on the greater Mayhem and Foolishness network, www.mayhemandfoolishnessproductions.com. It's true. I bought a website. I'm not good at maintaining it, but I bought it. It's there. It exists. Longest parenthetical in the history of the English language, is brought to you by my fantabulous Patreon patrons, the wonderful folks whose names you see listed currently scrolling at the bottom of the screen. These folks literally kept the lights on at one point during the channel's history, which was not all that long ago. And they continue to provide not only financial support, but emotional support and creative feedback over at patreon.com/junkshoplibrary with a beginning contribution as low as $1 a month. Shill. All the links to support the channel in the description below, blah, 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 all that YouTube-y stuff. I see the chat beginning to fill up. Y'all know there's one more thing I got to do before we launch into this horrible terribleness. I got to shout out my top tier and longest standing patron, the man I am proud to call my friend, the one and only Mr. Paul Kamish, Flat Earth Debunker Extraordinaire, member of the genuine calfskin tier. Thank you, my friend, for all you do for the channel. I could have changed my shirt mark, but that would have taken effort and an absence of a 4-hour panic attack. So, what can I tell you? All right, well, we're still mired in the depths of the book of Hosea. We've been mired in the depths of the book of Hosea for about 6 weeks, because despite the fact that it's only 14 chapters long, it's taken me 6 weeks to get through it because I've only aired about 3 episodes in the course of those 6 weeks. I got to bring back the mental health streams on this channel. Key to my passions and identity are issues with mental health. Central, even in fact. You think this shit looks messy and disorganized? You should see what it's like in here. All right, y'all ready for this crap? We got to finish Hosea. We'll never get into Joel if we don't finish Hosea. And Joel is where the locusts are. You remember locusts? We used to have such a grand old time with locusts back in the good old days of the Pentateuch. Well, fear not. The locusts will be with us again. Hosea, chapter 11. Mental health. Yes, long time viewers of the channel. Y'all, bear with me while I extemporize and parentheticalize one quick moment. Mental health. Mondays, it was indeed, once upon a time, at the start of the channel, during its, shall we say, maybe not so much infancy, but definitely its adolescence, before it became the robust and technically polished production you see before you today. I'm going to pause to wait for my Patreon supporters to get done laughing and chortling and snarfing their various drinks through their noses, because they were privy to some of that technological polishment this morning. You don't know what you're missing by not joining the catechism stream over on Patreon. It was Mondays to begin with, and then it was Thursdays, and then it was Tuesdays. And then it was Thursdays again. Then for a hot minute, it was Fridays. Then I tried Mondays again because Mental Health Mondays had a nice ring to it. But I was always busy on Mondays somehow. And so was everybody else on the internet. So I went back to Thursdays. And then I got a job, and I was busy during Thursday afternoons. We'll bring that stream back at some point. Strangely popular was that wild and weirdly uneven little street. Mental health matters. It's important to talk about it. We're not going to spend a lot of time talking about it here today because we're here today to talk about the Bible. More's the pity. I didn't realize how tortuous and torturous this little journey would be when I decided this was a good idea to film on my cell phone with the light of one light bulb against the wall 3 years ago and change. Like the man said when I asked him why he took off all his clothes and jumped into a cactus bush, it seemed like a good idea at the time. I did not come up with that. That's from the Magnificent Seven. And if you haven't seen the Magnificent Seven, I don't know what you've been doing with your life. Yes, it's a shitty remake of The Seven Samurai, but it's a fun shitty remake of The Seven Samurai. So good to see everybody here. Old friends of the channel, new friends of the channel, young friends of the channel. Chapter 11. I've babbled on enough to scare everybody away who's going to stay away regardless. Yep. Chapter 11. When Israel was a child, then I loved him, and called my son out of Egypt. As they called them, so they went from them. They sacrificed unto Baalim, and burned incense to graven images. I taught Ephraim also to go, taking them by their arms, but they knew not that I healed them. I drew them with cords of a man, with bands of love, and I was to them as they that take off the yoke on their jaws, and I laid meat unto them. He shall not return into the land of Egypt, but the Assyrian shall be his king, because they refused to return. And the sword shall abide on his cities, and shall consume his branches, and devour them, because of their own counsels. And my people are bent to backsliding from me, though they called them to the Most High, none at all would exalt him. How shall I give thee up, Ephraim? How shall I deliver thee, Israel? How shall I make thee as Admah? How shall I set thee as Zeboim? Mine heart is turned within me, my repentings are kindled together. I will not execute the fierceness of mine anger. I will not return to destroy Ephraim, for I am God and not man, the Holy One in the midst of thee, and I will not enter into the city. They shall walk after the Lord. He shall roar like a lion. When he shall roar, then the children shall tremble from the west. They shall tremble as a bird out of Egypt, and as a dove out of the land of Assyria, and I will place them in their houses, saith the Lord. Ephraim compasseth me about with lies, and the house of Israel with deceit. But Judah yet ruleth with God, and is faithful with the saints. There we have chapter 11. For those of you who were divided in your minds or amongst yourselves as to which side of the divided kingdom this book was written by, apparently Judah. Ephraim done fucked up and fucked off. Israel done fucked off and fucked up. Judah hath remained true to the heart of God. You are a dirty sinner, and you are a dirty sinner, and you are a dirty sinner, and I am beloved of the Most High. For I walk in his footsteps, and suck his balls, and do everything which he requireth of me to do. And there we have chapter 11. Not a lot going on. Not even any fun metaphors. No dashing of children against rocks. Just God deciding that he wasn't going to fuck up Judah after all. Despite the fact that he's been talking about all the smiting he's going to do for the last 11 chapters of the book of Hosea. Now he's decided some of y'all ain't going to get smote after all. Chapter 12. Ephraim feedeth on wind, and followeth after the east wind. He daily increaseth lies and desolation, and they do make a covenant with the Assyrians, and oil is carried into Egypt. The Lord hath also a controversy with Judah, and will punish Jacob according to his ways. According to his doings will he recompense him. He took his brother by the heel in the womb, and by his strength he had power with God. Yea, he had power over the angel, and prevailed. He wept and made supplication unto him. He found him in Beth-el, and there he spoke with us. Even the Lord God of hosts, the Lord is his memorial. Therefore turn thou to thy God, keep mercy and judgment, and wait on thy God continually. He is a merchant. The balances of deceit are in his hand. He loveth to oppress. And Ephraim said, Yet I am become rich. I have found me out substance. In all my labors they shall find none iniquity in me that were sin. And yet, that I am the Lord thy God from the land of Egypt, will yet make thee to dwell in tabernacles, as in the days of the solemn feast. I have also spoken by the prophets, and I have multiplied visions, and used similitudes by the ministry of the prophets. Is there iniquity in Gilead? Surely they are vanity. They sacrifice bullocks in Gilgal. Yea, their altars are as heaps in the furrows of the fields. And Jacob fled into the country of Syria, and Israel served for a wife, and for a wife he kept sheep. And by a prophet the Lord brought Israel out of Egypt, and by a prophet was he preserved. Ephraim provoked him to anger most bitterly. Therefore shall he leave his blood upon him, and his reproach shall his Lord return unto him. There we have chapter 12, which, as far as I can tell, at my first ever reading, to the best of my recollection, boils down to nanny boo boo, it's your fault. Bad shit happens to bad people. Suck it up, buttercup. Deal with it. It's the judgment of God. And also sheep. It's hard to keep track of who God's going to smite and who God's going to spare. It seemed to me like God's just kind of making shit up as he goes along, as bad as the Catholic Church. Call back to this morning's Patrons Only stream where we dealt with the concept of sin in the book of the Catholic Catechism. Not a lot going on in the book of Hosea. Just naughty, naughty, gonna get smoked. Papa cross, Papa spank. I think there's a reason we deal with these as the minor prophets. No sunburned dicks, no underwear buried in rocks, no bread cooked on fires made out of human dung. No, nothing. Just a bunch of sound and fury signifying fuck all. Welcome to the wonderful maze of the minor prophets. Chapter 13. When Ephraim spake trembling, he exalted himself in Israel. But when he offended in Baal, he died. And now they sin more and more, and have made them molten images of their silver, and idols according to their own understanding, all of it the work of the craftsman. They say of them, let the men that sacrifice kiss the calves. Therefore they shall be as the morning cloud, and as the early dew that passeth away, as the chaff that is driven with the whirlwind out of the floor, and as the smoke out of the chimney. Yet I am the Lord thy God from the land of Egypt, and thou shalt know no God but me, for there is no Savior beside me. I did know thee in the wilderness, in the land of great drought. According to their pastures, so were they filled. They were filled, and their heart was exalted. Therefore have they forgotten me. Therefore I will be unto them as a lion. As a leopard, by the way, will I observe them. I will meet them as a bear that is bereaved of her whelps, and will rend the caul of their heart. And there will I devour them like a lion. The wild beast shall tear them. O Israel, thou hast destroyed thyself, but in me is thine help. I will be thy king. Where is any other that may save thee in all thy cities, and thy judges of whom thou saidst, give me a king and princes? I gave thee a king in mine anger, and took him away in my wrath. The iniquity of Ephraim is bound up, his sin is hid. The sorrows of a travailing woman shall come upon him. He is an unwise son, for he should not stay long in the place of the breaking forth of children. I will ransom them from the power of the grave. I will redeem them from death. O death, I will be thy plagues. O grave, I will be thy destruction. Repentance shall be hid from mine eyes. Though he be fruitful among his brethren, an east wind shall come. The wind of the Lord shall come up from the wilderness, and his spring shall become dry, and his fountain shall be dried up. He shall spoil the treasure of all pleasant vessels. Samaria shall become desolate, for she hath rebelled against her God. They shall fall by the sword. Their infants shall be dashed to pieces, and their women with child shall be ripped up. And there we have chapter 13. Silly me for complaining. Ain't nothing going on? Wait a minute. We'll get back to the violent misogyny. Don't worry. It's the word of the Lord, y'all. We'll get back to that eventually. It's the subtext when it isn't the actual text. I am sin. Behold my glory. Yeah, right? Licentiousness. Carousing. Enmity. It's not just coffee. I'm reading Minor Prophets, y'all. Coffee ain't gonna suffice. Okay, so another appearance of my least favorite thing. The idea that it's worse to be a woman than anything else on God's green earth. When you fuck up, God smites you dead. When you really fuck up, God smites your city and leaves you alive to repent and bewail. When you really for goddamn sure fuck up, God brings upon you the sorrows of a woman in labor. For there is nothing lower or more unclean. Other than perhaps a woman who gives birth to a girl child. Flashback to the early days of the channel. Y'all remember that? It's in Leviticus. A woman who gives birth to a male child is ritually and ceremonially unclean. You try it. For 7 days. Give birth to a girl child, you're unclean for 14. 1 week or a fortnight are you unclean, depending on the sex of the baby you pop out. Does that have anything to do with you? Nope, not in the slightest. Just got to check between the baby's legs to find out whether mom has to go in quarantine for a week or a fortnight. Does it make sense? Nope. Was it supposed to make sense? Who fucking knows? It was the Iron Age. Does it make sense as a doctrine instilled with misogyny to its very core? Perfectly. People ask why I spend so much time trashing this book. Not as often as they did once upon a time, because I don't spend as much time trashing this book as I did once upon a time. But a book that regards women as not just second-class citizens, but as a subspecies so beneath contempt that not only can they be bought and sold, but they can serve as a benchmark of uncleanness and undesirability. And their behavior can be extrapolated from to create a metaphor for the vile. It's just terrible misogynist bullshit. It's ridiculous. This ridiculous crap. And there are cults out there who want to return to Levitical law. It's like, have you fucking read Leviticus? I gotta move that box. Every time I rotate it, looks like I'm sponsored by Corbell. I'm not. You don't want to live under Levitical law. This shirt is an abomination. The skirt, even more so. Is there anything else to say about Hosea, lucky 13th chapter? Oh yeah, Samaria. Little afterthought right at the end. How could I forget? Samaria, so unclean, they gonna kill your babies and your pregnant women. Samaria done fucked up beyond fucking up. Because boy, do you have to be fucked up for the pregnant women to get it. Because you risk the next generation of boy babies. But Samaria, in addition to being an alien nation, is a sinful one that just will not follow the Yahweh. And the Yahweh's had enough of it. The Yahweh is cheesed off. Real cheesed off. Cheesed off enough to incite a genocide. Yes, another one. Oh, and nice little callback right there in verses 10 and 11. Nice little callback to the days of Saul. You remember this story? It's one of my favorite Bible stories. Back in the days of the prophets and judges, the children of Israel got tired of being different, decided they wanted to be like all the popular kids. They went to Samuel and they said, ask God to give us a king. He said, what do you want with a king? Look all around you. Everybody else has a king. You see how well that works? Look at them paying taxes and shit. Being conscripted into standing armies. Prima noctem. All kind of ridiculous crap. They said, give us a king. Everybody else has one. I want it now. So Samuel goes to God and says, they want a fucking king. And God laughs and says, no, they don't. Trust me on this one. No, they don't. Samuel says, I told them they don't want a king. They're insistent. Very. This goes on for some time. Finally, God gets pissed off and bored of the whole thing. And he says, fine. They want a king. I'll give them a king. Look over there. You see that tall guy? Yeah. Tall Saul. You remember Tall Saul? Hashtag Tall Saul. The manic, depressive, schizophrenic kid who failed all his poetry classes. Some of y'all been with me long enough to remember that. Make him king. Anoint his head with oil. See how they like having a king. I'll give them a bipolar one with delusions of grandeur and periodic hallucinations. And then I'll give the poor bastard a demon. O Israel, thou hast destroyed thyself. More of this minor prophets bullshit. It's all your fault. You asked for it. Not just were you born into it, you asked for it. You wanted it. You brought it on yourself. Shame on you. Bad. 14. O Israel, return unto the Lord thy God, for thou hast fallen by thine iniquity. Take with you words and turn to the Lord. Say unto him, take away all iniquity and receive us graciously, so will we render the calves of our lips. Asher will not save us. We will not ride upon horses, neither will we say any more to the work of our hands, ye are our gods, for in thee the fatherless findeth mercy. I will heal their backsliding. I will love them freely, for mine anger is turned away from them. I will be as the dew unto Israel. He shall grow as the lily, and cast forth his roots as Lebanon. His branches shall spread, and his beauty shall be as the olive tree, and his smell as Lebanon. They that dwell under his shadow shall return. They shall revive as the corn, and grow as the vine. The scent thereof shall be as the wine of Lebanon. Ephraim shall say, what have I to do any more with idols? I have heard him and observed him. I am like a green fir tree. From me is thy fruit found. Who is wise? And he shall understand these things. Prudent, and he shall know them. For the ways of the Lord are right, and the just shall walk in them, but the transgressors shall fall therein. That's the end of the book of the prophet Hosea. Will they, won't they? Everybody's least favorite trope in television, except it's with God and Israel. Will they, won't they this time again? How many times Israel gonna not learn their lesson and go bamboozling off after idols? That's not the word I want. It's not important. Just dooley. Off after the idols, sacrificing to Baalim, raising up those Asherah poles for the 15 gazillionth time, making Yahweh jealous with all them giant phalluses. Again. And God comes along and smites them, hurls them away into captivity, walks away, forgets about them for a few generations, gets yelled down by some prophet. Hey, Yahweh, they've learned their lesson. This time, again, come back, let us out. We don't like Assyria. It's cold over here. On and on and on. The whole fucking Old Testament boils down to that. It's like the book of Acts, except with a population instead of one person. Just same thing over and over and over and over. Don't learn, won't learn, don't know how. Boiled down to 14 very short chapters by the book of the Prophet Reader's Digest. I mean, Hosea. Brought to you by Spark Notes. Not sponsored content. All right. So, we've been going for 35 minutes. We finally polished off Hosea. Anybody ready for some bugs and some wind? You want to try Joel? Let's have some bugs and some wind. If memory serves. It's been like 30 fucking years since I read this book. Chapter 1. The word of the Lord that came to Joel, the son of Pethuel. Hear this, ye old men, and give ear, all ye inhabitants of the land. Hath this been in your days, or even in the days of your fathers? Tell ye your children of it, and let your children tell their children, and their children another generation. That which the palmer worm hath left, the locust hath eaten. And that which the locust hath left, hath the cankerworm eaten. And that which the cankerworm hath left, hath the caterpillar eaten. Awake, ye drunkards, and weep, and howl, all ye drinkers of wine, because of the new wine, for it is cut off from your mouth. For a nation is come up upon my land, strong and without number, whose teeth are the teeth of a lion, and he hath the cheek teeth of a great lion. He hath laid my vine waste, and barked my fig tree. He hath made it clean bare, and cast it away. The branches thereof are made white. Lament like a virgin girdled with sackcloth for the husband of her youth. The meat offering and the drink offering is cut off from the house of the Lord. The priests, the Lord's ministers, mourn. The field is wasted, the land mourneth. For the corn is wasted, the new wine is dried up, the oil languisheth. Be ye ashamed, O ye husbandmen. Howl, O ye vine dressers, for the wheat and for the barley, because the harvest of the field is perished. The vine is dried up, and the fig tree languisheth, the pomegranate tree, the palm tree also, and the apple tree. Even all the trees of the field are withered, because joy is withered away from the sons of men. Gird yourselves and lament, ye priests. Howl, ye ministers of the altar. Come, lie all night in sackcloth, ye ministers of my God, for the meat offering and the drink offering is withholden from the house of your God. Sanctify ye a fast, call a solemn assembly. Gather the elders and all the inhabitants of the land unto the house of the Lord your God, and cry unto the Lord. Alas, for the day of the Lord is at hand, and as a destruction from the Almighty shall it come. Is not the meat cut off from before our eyes? Yea, joy and gladness from the house of our God. The seed is rotten under their clods. The garners are laid desolate. The barns are broken down, for the corn is withered. How do the beasts groan? The herds of cattle are perplexed, because they have no pasture. Yea, the flocks of sheep are made desolate. O Lord, to thee will I cry, for the fire hath devoured the pastures of the wilderness, and the flame hath burned all the trees of the field. The beasts of the field cry also unto thee, for the rivers of waters are dried up, and the fire hath devoured the pastures of the wilderness. And there we have chapter 1 of the book of the prophet Wrath. I mean, Joel. Okay, so. Ain't nothing like a religion to make a mountain out of a molehill, right? There's a drought and a famine in the Judean desert. It has never happened before. Come on. Motherfucker, please. We've been doing drought and famine since we came up out of Egypt. You decided to pick the most godforsaken, hot, no rain having, miserable, burning ass desert patch of nowhere. Get your burning ass desert merch at the link in the description below. YouTube! On the face of the fucking planet. With the bare exception of certain portions of North America and the heart of Africa. You had to pick the most miserable ass place you could possibly have gone. You went there. You kept on going. Finally, you found a river and said, well, this'll be good enough. Tired of the burning ass desert where apparently we walked in circles for 40 fucking years because a straight line across the Sinai Peninsula would have been too easy. So anyway, there's a famine and a drought. Famine and drought happens, trees dry up. One guy tosses away a cigarette without putting it out, and the whole bitch burns. The cattle are perplexed. Oh, and also there's a worm plague. Locusts, to be sure. But also, at least in the King James, in a lot of the later translations, it's different kinds of locusts. But also in the King James, the palmer worm, the canker worm, and the caterpillar. Palmer worm. What in the name of fuck all is a palmer worm, you may ask? Well, we're about to find out. Thanks, Lone. Come on. I see ossifrage. I see parchment. It's got to be in here somewhere. Palmer worm. Noun. A worm covered with hair. How do they distinguish that from a caterpillar? That's what I want to know. Caterpillar's not in here. What's a cankerworm? Caulker, candlestick, canker, carbuncled. Not in here. But canker is a virulent, corroding ulcer, or anything that corrodes, corrupts, or destroys. Ulcer worm. Blech. Eating all the crops. Don't you just hate it when the ulcer worms come? Was butterflies eventually. Remember? Caterpillars there at the very end. Gonna have pretty butterflies.
Someday I will be a beautiful butterfly, and everything will be better.
A wrathful intro, isn't it? Like fucking Carmina Burana. Like, here we have A lovely assortment of ancient erotica set to modern music. But before we get started, I don't presume that there's going to be any lovely ancient erotica further on in the book of Joel, but it sure opened like Carmina Burana, a plague of locusts, a drought noticeable in the desert, and also fire. We've been going 45 minutes. Book of the Prophet Joel is 3 chapters long. You want to make this a combo platter? You want to get done with Hosea and Joel in one go? Why do I ask these things? I won't see the chat for another 3.5 minutes. Joel chapter 2. If we run long, it's all right. Y'all will leave if you've other things to do. I might leave too. Who knows? Blow ye the trumpet in Zion, and sound an alarm in my holy mountain. Let all the inhabitants of the land tremble, for the day of the Lord cometh, for it is nigh at hand. A day of darkness and gloominess, a day of clouds and of thick darkness, as the morning spread upon the mountains, a great people and a strong. There hath not ever been the like, neither shall be any more after it, even to the years of many generations. A fire devoureth before them, and behind them a flame burneth. The land is as the garden of Eden before them, and behind them a desolate wilderness. Yea, and nothing shall escape them. The appearance of them is as the appearance of horses, and as horsemen so shall they run. Like the noise of chariots on the tops of mountains shall they leap, like the noise of a flame of fire that devoureth the stubble, as a strong people set in battle array. Before their face the people shall be much pained, all faces shall gather blackness. They shall run like mighty men, they shall climb the wall like men of war, and they shall march every one on his ways, and they shall not break their ranks. Neither shall one thrust another. They shall walk every one in his path, and when they fall upon the sword, they shall not be wounded. They shall run to and fro in the city. They shall run upon the wall. They shall climb up upon the houses. They shall enter in at the windows like a thief. The earth shall quake before them. The heavens shall tremble. The sun and the moon shall be dark, and the stars shall withdraw their shining, and the Lord shall utter his voice before his army, for his camp is very great. For he is strong that executeth his word. For the day of the Lord is great and very terrible. And who can abide it? Therefore also now, saith the Lord, turn ye even to me with all your heart, and with fasting, and with weeping, and with mourning, and rend your heart, and not your garments, and turn unto the Lord your God, for he is gracious and merciful, slow to anger, and of great kindness, and repenteth him of the evil. Who knoweth if he will turn and repent, and leave a blessing behind him, even a meat offering and a drink offering unto the Lord your God? Blow the trumpet in Zion, sanctify a fast, call a solemn assembly. Gather the people, sanctify the congregation, assemble the elders, gather the children, and those that suck the breasts. Let the bridegroom go forth of his chamber, and the bride out of her closet. Let the priests, the ministers of the Lord, weep between the porch and the altar, and let them say, spare thy people, O Lord, and give not thine heritage to reproach, that the heathen should rule over them. Wherefore should they say among the people, where is their God? Then will the Lord be jealous for his land and pity his people. Yea, the Lord will answer and say unto his people, Behold, I will send you corn and wine and oil, and ye shall be satisfied therewith. I will no more make you a reproach among the heathen, but I will remove far off from you the northern army, and I will drive him into a land barren and desolate, with his face toward the east sea, and his hinder parts toward the utmost sea. And his stink shall come up, and his ill savor shall come up, because he hath done great things. Fear not, O land, be glad and rejoice, for the Lord will do great things. Be not afraid, ye beasts of the field, for the pastures of the wilderness do spring. For the tree beareth her fruit, the fig tree and the vine do yield their strength. Be glad, then, ye children of Zion, and rejoice in the Lord your God, for he hath given you the former rain moderately, and he will cause to come down for you the former rain, and the latter rain in the first month, and the floors shall be full of wheat, and the fats shall overflow with wine and oil. And I will restore to you the years that the locust hath eaten, the cankerworm, and the caterpillar, and the palmer worm, my great army which I sent among you. And ye shall eat in plenty and be satisfied, and praise the name of the Lord your God, that hath dealt wondrously with you, and my people shall never be ashamed. And ye shall know that I am in the midst of Israel, and that I am the Lord your God, and none else, and my people shall never be ashamed. And it shall come to pass afterward that I will pour out my spirit upon all flesh, and your sons and your daughters shall prophesy. Your old men shall dream dreams, your young men shall see visions. And also upon the servants and upon the handmaids in those days will I pour out my spirit, and I will shew wonders in the heavens and in the earth, blood and fire and pillars of smoke. The sun shall be turned into darkness and the moon into blood before the great and the terrible day of the Lord come. And it shall come to pass that whosoever shall call on the name of the Lord shall be delivered. For in Mount Zion and in Jerusalem shall be deliverance, as the Lord hath said, and in the remnant whom the Lord shall call. And that's chapter 2, where we do it again. God's going to send a big fuck-off army out of the east, because east is where the evil comes from. And the north. And also, for some reason, sometimes the west, because we're way east of Egypt at this point, but Egypt is not real. Egypt is really regarded as a spent force at this time, and really only regarded as a trading partner. So anyway, another fuck-off great army going to come in, and they're going to be big and bad and tough, and they're going to rampage and rule and smite and make all kinds of chaos and crazy, and eventually the people will say, enough, uncle, we'll worship the Yahweh again, and Yahweh will say, oh, well, I'm sure you learned your lesson this time, and he'll send away the great fuck-off army back to the far depths of the east that he summoned them from to begin with, and he'll make stuff bloom again and call off the palmer worms. This time, the locust and the palmer worm and the cankerworm and the caterpillar, my great army, which I have sent against thee. God has gone from being a fire god, a volcano god, a floating lamp kind of hallucination god. Now God is the god of the creeping things. With a vast collection ready to be sent upon them that displease the God of the Bray. If you're God, you have to tell us. Gods are like cops that way. If you're a god, you have to tell us. So anyway, just God not being able to make up his mind again. Great smiting in chapter 1, repenting of the smiting in chapter 2, and setting everything back the way it was before at the end of chapter 2. "55 minutes. We'll go a little over the hour. We'll put this one in rear view. Joel only has 3 chapters. For behold, in those days and in that time, when I shall bring... You gotta be fucking kidding me. Anybody else fallen asleep? For behold, in those days and in that time, when I shall bring again the captivity of Judah and Jerusalem, I will also gather all nations, and will bring them down into the valley of Jehoshaphat, and will plead with them there for my people, and for my heritage Israel, whom they have scattered among the nations, and parted my land. And they have cast lots for my people, and have given a boy for an harlot, and sold a girl for wine that they might drink. Yea, what have ye to do with me, O Tyre and Zidon, and all the coasts of Palestine? Will ye render me a recompense? And if ye recompense me, swiftly and speedily will I return your recompense upon your own head, because ye have taken my silver and my gold, and have carried into your temples my goodly pleasant things. The children also of Judah and the children of Jerusalem have ye sold unto the Grecians, that ye might remove them far from their borders. Behold, I will raise them out of the place whither ye have sold them, and will return your recompense upon your own head. And I will sell your sons and your daughters into the hand of the children of Judah, and they shall sell them to the Sabaeans, to a people far off. For the Lord hath spoken it. Proclaim this among the Gentiles. Prepare war. Wake up the mighty men. Let all the men of war draw near. Let them come up. Beat your plowshares into swords, and your pruning hooks into spears, and let the weak say, I am strong. Assemble yourselves, and come, all ye heathen, and gather yourselves together round about. Thither cause thy mighty ones to come down, O Lord. Let the heathen be wakened, and come up to the valley of Jehoshaphat, for there will I sit to judge all the heathen round about. Put ye in the sickle, for the harvest is ripe. Come, get you down, for the press is full. The fats overflow, for their wickedness is great. Multitudes, multitudes in the valley of decision. For the day of the Lord is near in the valley of decision. The sun and the moon shall be darkened, and the stars shall withdraw their shining. The Lord also shall roar out of Zion, and utter his voice from Jerusalem, and the heavens and the earth shall shake. But the Lord will be the hope of his people, and the strength of the children of Israel. So shall ye know that I am the Lord your God, dwelling in Zion, my holy mountain. Then shall Jerusalem be holy, and there shall no strangers pass through her any more. And it shall come to pass in that day that the mountains shall drop down new wine, and the hills shall flow with milk, and all the rivers of Judah shall flow with waters. And a fountain shall come forth of the house of the Lord, and shall water the valley of Shittim. Egypt shall be a desolation, and Edom shall be a desolate wilderness for the violence against the children of Judah, because they have shed innocent blood in their land. But Judah shall dwell forever, and Jerusalem for generation to generation. For I will cleanse their blood that I have not cleansed, for the Lord dwelleth in Zion. So much for the book of the prophet Joel, the son of, what was it? Jehunah? Pethuel. He's going to bring another heathen army. Now look, I'm not going to get bogged down in this heathen business. Just say that flat out and move on past it. Worshippers of other gods, alien nations will come. They'll come creepsy and tricksy and catch us, my precious. And then they'll get smote by the mighty hand of the Lord when he decides that Israel is the chosen people yet again for the umpteen billionth time. Minor prophets. There's a reason they don't teach this shit. It's because it's boring as dry toast. I happen to like dry toast myself, but it's not exactly a culinary extravaganza. Let us hope when we gather again together next week at approximately the same time, let us hope that the book of Amos is a little more interesting. Because the book of Joel was just Yahweh waffling on about how he can't make up his fucking mind about anything. Again! Smite, don't smite. Smite, don't smite. Death to the enemy, life to the enemy. And make up your fucking mind, God. I don't have all day. Not all of us are fucking immortal. Get your shit together. I need to know what to prepare for. Wine or famine? Carousing or rain of arrows to block out the sun? Well, little wolf, did you bring enough for the whole class? Great minds think alike, apparently. I know I keep coming back to this, y'all. Time and again, over the time that we've spent together in this book. But you know that some of these books were only included because they had some of somebody's favorite verses in them. Somebody loved the word palmer worms so much that they insisted on including the book of the prophet Joel, son of Pethuel, despite the fact that we just got out of Hosea that was essentially the same thing except with less bugs. It's what happens when you anthologize by committee. Anthologizers should have free reign. Within reason. And then you notice the thing that pisses God off against the steppe nomads, the thing that pisses God off against this grand and grievous army of heathen invaders that has just come blasting through town, the thing that pisses him off is that they take his fancy shit, his cauldrons and his altar tongs and the curious girdle of the ephod and God only knows what all else. Go back. Then he decides it's time to avenge himself for the deaths of the chosen ones and for the selling of the babies for wine and for all this crap that went on then. He let all that else slide. But the heathen don't get the curious girdle of the ephod and whatever else fancy shit they took from the Pimp My Tabernacle box back there. Y'all remember Numbers? Interior decorating BCE. Purple and gold and purple and gold and purple and gold and pomegranates and purple and gold and purple and gold and pomegranates. Ugh. That's what's important to God. The frou-frou. There's a reason all these crappy little Protestant denominations keep splitting off and dying out, whereas the Orthodox Church and Catholicism flourish. It's because they've got the frou-frou. Frou-frou for you. Stupid. A God so vain, so omniscient, and yet so blind simultaneous, that while he notices the sale of the children in the streets, he can't really be arsed to do anything about it. Take care, Paul. He can't really be arsed to do anything about it. But as soon as you touch his shiny shit, ooh, you waken the beast. You mess with the bull, you get the horns. Here comes Yahweh to avenge the terrible sin of you taking his fancy shit. Feel kind of bad winding down here now that as we get an influx of new folk, but we've been going a little over an hour, and I about ranted about minor prophets, about all I can rant about minor prophets today. They're minor for a reason. They're short, they're boring. And in a nutshell, rather than read them and bitch about them, I'd rather be eating Haggis burgers. I want to go back to Edinburgh and set up camp in that joint and eat Haggis burgers the rest of my life till I'm old and fat and gouty. Based on a true story. We're so close, y'all. We're here. We start Amos next week. Amos, Obadiah. God, it's been a long time since I did the song. Let's see. Daniel, Hosea, Joel, Amos, Obadiah, Jonah, Micah, Nahum, Habakkuk, Zephaniah, Haggai, Zechariah, and the last book, Malachi. We're so close to the end of the Old Testament, and then we got to do Jesus. Fuck off. All right. Thank you all for coming. Thank you for putting up with the unbelievable chaos of the background, slowly winnowing away at that. Appreciate y'all and all you do for the channel. Special shout out to #String Theories, the newest, not nearest, newest member of the Patreon support network. These prophets are wearing me out. I'm tired, cranky. And you, my friend, I've been watching you since about 10 o'clock this morning. Cheers. It's Makers. It's good stuff. Not sponsored content. I can make a running gag out of anything. Y'all know this. Until we congregate again. As we always say before we roll out of here, when I remember and when I'm in practice. Everybody take care. Be safe. Stand against hate. And we'll see y'all again at some point. We got to bring back that mental health stream, if nothing else. Stay safe out there, y'all.